Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Delighted to be joined by Charlie Edinburgh. Hi, Charlie.
Hi there, Simon. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Charlie, you're the founder of the JE3 Foundation, which is looking to bring in some new laws, Justin's Law, which we'll talk about as we get into the podcast. But it'd be good for the listeners to get to know you a bit better. So if you can give us a bit of background of what you've been through, where you've worked and how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem at all. So in a nutshell, how I've come to be founder of this foundation. So I tragically lost my father last year on the 8th of June. He had a cardiac arrest. And I, along with my mother and my sister, came up with the idea that we would love to do all that we could do to keep his legacy and his name going. And we felt that by setting up a foundation in his name and in his memory and his legacy, we can do some really positive work to try and help save people's lives and prevent others having to endure the same pain that we've had to experience as a family. Prior to setting up the foundation, I mean, my background, I'd come out of working in a recruitment business for around 3.5 years. And prior to that, I'd had some experience in working as a football agent, linked in quite nicely with, obviously, my dad being involved in the footballing world, firstly as a player and then as a manager. So I was quite fortunate in that regard to work within that field. But I've had a variety of different areas that I've worked in since sort of leaving school. Didn't go to university or anything like that, but just sort of wanted to get out and earn money, really. That was my drive, that was my motivation, and I was lucky enough to secure myself a role up in London for a brokerage working within the field of equity derivatives. And as I say, took the opportunity to jump into, as I say, an opportunity that I really couldn't turn down, and to go and ply my trade within that sort of world of football as a football agent. Very, very tough industry, very cutthroat. And it was one of those that, I had a lot of good relationships through Dad there to attack, but it's just such a tough industry to crack. And it led me to sort of coming away from it, unfortunately, for one reason or another. And as I say, ended up within the world of finance and accounting recruitment before, as I say, this tragic event occurred with Dad on the 3rd of June last year, and he actually passed away on the 8th of June. And it wasn't long after that the JE3, the Justin Edinburgh 3 Foundation was formed. And from then on, I've sort of spearheaded that along with my mum and my sister working closely with me and my amazing group of trustees. So that's the story of how I've got to where I am now.
Yeah, it's a story tainted with tragedy, but out of that comes some goodness, we all hope. So an amazing foundation. I know from the football world, there's support all around and social media presence, brilliant. The one thing you're aiming for, or the first, I suppose, milestone is Justin's Law, as you're calling it. It'd be good to understand a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with this foundation, obviously we've set it up with Dad at the heart of everything that we do. He's in our minds and in our thoughts with every decision that we make with this foundation, and almost a bit, what would he do? But Justin's Law is going to be, obviously, with the current pandemic, we've had certain restrictions in place to prevent us sort of maybe doing some of the work that we would have liked to have already done. But our first thing is obviously to make sure that we secure our charity number. That's very, very close. We're hoping that's not too far away now. And then once we've got that set up, we'll be campaigning for Justin's Law. So as I say, my father, he was training in a gym when he had his cardiac arrest, and there wasn't actually a defibrillator on site, which in hindsight could have potentially saved his life. Who knows? But there wasn't one there. And at that early sort of stage, when somebody is having cardiac arrest, effective CPR and good shocks of a defibrillator are going to give the person having the trauma the best possible outcome. And he was unfortunate. He was in a gym that wasn't equipped with a defibrillator. And, we've spoken a lot about this as a family and amongst our friendship groups, and just to any people that, sort of dad who touched their life, just general conversation about him. And I think when you look at sort of certain security and safety measures that are in place, the fact that I wasn't aware, I think everybody's a bit naive, and that's nobody's fault. We're just not really well educated enough in this sort of thing within this country. So I would have just assumed, probably like a lot of the listeners, that defibrillators had to be within gyms and sports facilities when in fact they actually don't. And it's quite a bizarre one, really, because it's almost like not having a seatbelt in your car. You're going into these places, and some people go in there in some rather unfit states. You go to the gym, you go to do exercise to make yourself fitter, to lose weight, to make better changes to your physical and mental health. And to not actually have something like a defibrillator within that facility that could potentially save your life, because people are pushing their bodies to the limit, right? When you do get somebody who could be quite unfit going in and trying to do something positive and make a difference to themselves for the better, and they haven't got that bit of kit there, it could be the difference, as we found as a family, between life and death. And we've looked into it. It's not something that is a legal requirement. So Justin's Law is a campaign which we're going to push to try and get every health and sports facility in the UK. So it doesn't matter what your sport is, whether that's an ice rink, a swimming pool, golf course, football ground. We want to make sure that every health and sports facility across the UK is equipped with a defibrillator. We just think that it makes sense. That how it's not already is beyond me, but it's a change which we can make, a positive change, and use Dad's name and his legacy to create something positive, because that's what he was all about. He was a very upbeat and positive man in all walks of life. And I think it would be a really fitting way to remember him and to keep his legacy going.
No, it's amazing. And I had the pleasure to play golf with your dad, not very well, and he reminded me all the way around at the Leyton Orient Golf Day last year. And it's a day that will live long in the memory. And it's interesting, that whole piece around defibs, because I, at the time last season, was chairman of our local kids football team, about 400 kids, 40 odd teams. And it made me do a bit of investigation. So our local sports centre, where the kids play on a Sunday, the defib was locked in the manager's office. So we had the kit, but actually if there'd have been a problem, we were relying on whoever was there to be there. So we then put a lockbox on the wall, and the other venue we inherited didn't have one. So again, one of the first things we did was got one there. And it's not the sexy part of it, if that makes sense, and it's easy to overlook. But certainly the FA and some of those organisations related to football have some good grants and schemes that you can get into. But like you say, it's one of those things that if it's not there, you only know when you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, a lot of headway and improvement has been made around this, to be honest, with the research that I've done. I remember growing up and not really, it's quite strange, really, until something like this happens to you. You don't really sort of stand up and take notice. And the amount that I've been able to sort of learn and educate myself on since tragically losing Dad, it's taught me some invaluable lessons, and skills that I can carry with me moving forward that could potentially save somebody's life. But I think, as I say, another tragic thing that happened, but he was a lucky one who survived. Fabrice Muamba was probably the first sort of time I've took notice. And since then, especially within the world of sport, I do feel that, especially as you mentioned there, local community sides and things like that, I'm starting to see defibrillators a lot more frequently now. And I don't know whether that's because I just noticed them because of what's happened, and how long they've been there for. But there's places that I walk past there in our local high street, and I never realised that there was one there prior to this happening. It's really, really strange. I do think there has been a lot of money invested into getting these essential bits of kit out there. But as you say, it's about making them accessible. It's all well and good having the equipment that you need, but if it's locked up in an office or in a facility which somebody can't get to, it's no use to anybody. So, of course, with any sort of defibrillator that we can get into these sorts of venues, we want to make them accessible so that it doesn't matter whether it's somebody that's inside in the gym, or you just need to make it in a place. And as I say, that all of these businesses and football clubs, sports teams will have sort of safety officers that we can liaise with and come to an agreement on the best place to position them. So that, as I say, hopefully people never need to use them. We don't want these bits of kit to ever need to be used, but it just needs to be in places that can get accessibility should something terrible like this happen.
Yeah, and the latest FA health and safety course, or first aid course, that you have to go on at grassroots, one of the new parts of that is they teach you how to use a defib. So again, for every grassroots coach, every 3 years, you've got to update that first aid qualification. As part of that, they'll all get training on a defib, which comes back to make sure you've got a defib that's accessible. So it's becoming it's becoming. You say, I think it's brilliant, and I think that for us again is another sort of area that we are going to look to tap into, is just the education around it. Unfortunately, in this country, we aren't the best educated around effective CPR and how to use a defibrillator. That's not our fault. It's just it's not in school curriculum. It's not something that we are made to learn, and I'm not saying that it is something that everyone's going to want to go out and learn, but I feel that the more people that know how to do it and use the equipment can only be beneficial for the whole country. There was stats that I was sort of given not long after Dad's party. I was speaking with Thomas Keeble, he's one of the top cardiologists in the country, who cared for Dad along with his excellent team in the Essex Cardiothoracic Centre when he had his cardiac arrest. And he was sort of saying to us not long after Dad passed away, you look at certain parts of the world, Seattle, for example, their survival rate from 50 is 51%, whereas in this country it's like around 7-8% survival rate from a cardiac arrest. So you can just see the significant difference, because places like Seattle, they have the education and training there. They teach it in schools, and that's something again that the JE3 Foundation wants to help and fund is education. We've been involved in a brilliant incentive set up by a guy called Bill Toff, again another top man in his field, and he's launched across Leicestershire, Heartwires UK, and that's now being rolled out across Essex as well by Bill Toff and by Thomas Keeble and JE3 Foundation. We was actually invited to attend the launch event of Heartwires, which is a fantastic way for the children in senior schools across Essex to be educated in CPR and how to use defibrillators, and that's going to help generate potentially a new breed of lifesavers, if you will, because that there is going to be taught to year 10 and year 11 pupils in senior schools, and hopefully they take something away from it. They learn a new skill that, should they ever see somebody unfortunately take a turn for the worst in front of them, that they have the confidence, they have the knowledge to potentially save somebody's life with, effective CPR and good effective shocks from a defibrillator. So a great thing, again, to be involved with. And as you say, I think it's just more about people understanding and educating themselves. And that's another area which we really, really want to help and push. So the foundation's got off to an amazing start. There's been, some amazing work you guys have done, and the family and some of the people that were close to Justin and in the whole football and out of football world. How are you managing the kind of administration of a foundation versus delivering the maximum benefit to those people that contribute?
Do you know what? It's everybody who has got involved, whether that's somebody who's taken it upon themselves to do their own bit of fundraising. I mean, myself, my mum, my sister, we've got an amazing family friendship network surrounded us anyway. But obviously, with the foundation, we've got an unbelievable team of trustees. When we selected those, we were very mindful. There was, honestly, this is no exaggeration, there was hundreds of people that we could have asked to have been a trustee, but we were very careful in selecting a mixture of people that obviously meant a lot to Dad, because, as I say, we're keeping Dad at the heart of every decision that we make, but also with different skill sets, and you talk there about making the most and how do you make that cost effective. I mean, all of my trustees are giving up their time and their effort for no cost, and that for me and my family and my mum and my sister is such a comforting thing to know that Dad meant so much to people, that they're prepared to give up their time when called upon, and any help or support that they can be to make this foundation the success that we all want it to be, that they're prepared to go above and beyond, and of course there's things along the way where, I think one thing that I've learned from certain people that I've spoken to that have been successful in setting up charities and raising significant funds is with a foundation, with a charity, you can't be sort of shy in asking for people to give what they can for little or nothing, and it's hard because I don't like to see people's hard work go unnoticed without some sort of reward, and I appreciate people's work and efforts comes at a cost, but some of the people that have given up their time and efforts to make the foundation what it is so far, from the logo being created, Alex Chappell, who created the JE3 Foundation logo. I know the work that goes into something like that, the design, getting it all sort of packaged together so that we can use it on different social media platforms and all of that he gave all of that work up for absolutely nothing. And that's just out the goodness of his heart and wanting to give something back to us, because he knew and felt the pain that we was going through. And that's the sort of thing that, so far has been so touching and rewarding about doing this work, is how many good people there are in the world, and just how many people want to just do something out the goodness and the generosity of their own heart and own spare time. It's really, really touching, and something that we're really, really grateful of.
And what role do businesses play? Because clearly there's lots of individual donations from lots of the fans of all the clubs that Justin's played for and managed throughout the years, and all of the people that have interacted with him. But is there also a focus on getting businesses on board that can drive bigger momentum?
Absolutely. Look, we're by no means the finished article, and we want to be associated, we want to be affiliated with businesses and any organisation that can add benefit, add value, and help spread our message and what it is that we're trying to achieve. And I feel that is only going to be beneficial to our campaign with Justin's Law. The more people that we have on side, whether that is, your local businesses or even some of, your larger organisations of this world, and the more sort of higher profile you can make something like a foundation, is only going to be beneficial. I spoke the other day on another podcast about, how unfortunately for some people, they have this great idea of setting up a foundation or a charity, and it sort of falls off of a cliff just purely down to not maybe having, and by the way, I'm by no means an expert and I'm learning all the time. It's really strange. Dad's teaching me lessons without actually being here, and he's giving me a whole new skill set. But with my trustees and their backgrounds, I'm picking their brains and getting their skill set and sort of saying, right, how can we do this better? How can we maximise this opportunity? And for example, we're looking at ways in which, at the moment, obviously with the current pandemic, how can we look to be seen to be doing something? And I think, we're in conversations at the moment with sort of St John's Ambulance, who cover the whole of the football grounds in the UK when it comes to first aid and ambulance care on match days. And obviously football being such a big part of Dad's life, we just felt by making that sort of initial approach to them around about the potential of supplying defibrillators to places that need them moving forward. So they're the sorts of things, as I say, there's been plenty of businesses and plenty of people that have come forward that, as I say, just want to help and want to get our message out there and really see the good in what it is that we're trying to achieve with the JE3 Foundation. So, yeah, as I say, picking the brains of all of my trustees, we've got some excellent people on board, some really, really successful business people and some really successful athletes and other industries. That's why we selected such a wide sort of scope of people, because they all bring something different. And we feel that that's what's going to make us successful, along with, everybody's generosity and support that, obviously, as I say, it's not just our trustees, our family, our friends, and just the general people. It's crazy how many people have got in touch and wanted to help.
And I think with the economic outlook is pretty grim, because there's a lot of money to pay back for what's happened with lockdown. So how are you thinking about donations being a priority for people, or keeping that in the top 5 of their priorities, as potentially there's going to be a lot more unemployment, people are going to be tightening the belt?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think ultimately this pandemic, nobody really envisaged it. I certainly didn't ever feel that this would be something that would happen in my lifetime. But I think, we can only do our best. And ultimately, for us, it's a case of just making effective use of the funds that we've raised so far. We really have raised some amazing funds without really doing a great deal, because, as I say, we set this foundation up shortly after my dad's passing. We gave it sort of, we announced it some sort of 10, 15 days after, but it wasn't probably until sort of mid-late August that we really sort of started getting our teeth into it. And I think we haven't really done a great deal, other than we had an inaugural charity gala dinner in December for Dad's. It would have been his 50th birthday, and we're looking to make that an annual event. And that event alone raised just shy of 200,000, which is massive amount of money for us. If somebody had said to me in your first year that you would earn 200 grand nearly from an event, I would have snapped their hand off and said you're crazy. But that, along with, we're up to nearly 60,000 now on our Just Giving page. That's like, look at that in a year, that's nearly a £250,000, and that really, really can be used effectively. We do feel, as I say, we're not going to be shy to ask for people's help. That's what foundations and charities are about. We ask for people to support us and to get behind us purely down to the fact we are looking to do something which is going to benefit the whole country. It can only be good. It can only be beneficial to everybody, no matter what your background, where you come from. If you go into the gym or you go in to play your sport, whatever that is, and you can walk in there and know that you're safe, I just think it makes sense, and it would be something that I would definitely want to get involved with and behind. So different sort of initiatives we're coming up with. Obviously, we launched at the start of this week the JE3 mile, which has really, we've seen already that's been going. This is the 3rd day of that now, and the amount of donations we've had just across 3 days has been incredible, and that gives me so much belief and drive that we will come out of the other side of this grim sort of economic climate at the moment, because if people are prepared to sort of put their hand in their pocket and donate to the cause right now, I can see us, continuing to strive and be positive and look to really make a difference to people. But yeah, initiatives like the JE3 mile and different sort of ideas that we're sort of brainstorming as a group of trustees. There's lots of things that we can do, and we back ourselves to come out of the other side of it in a positive and making a change to people's lives. That's what we're doing this for.
Amazing. Yeah, and we had a table at the gala dinner. Great night. So look forward to the next ones when we're allowed out to play again.
Absolutely.
So lots of exciting stuff to come by the sounds of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's hopefully something. I can't give too much away, but there's hopefully something in the not too distant future that would be happening to sort of mark the 1 year anniversary. As I say, Dad tragically lost his life on the 8th of June, so that's next Monday. So hopefully in and around that time we'll be making a significant announcement. Keep your eyes and ears peeled.
Good. And if people want to find you, Charlie, what's the best way for them to contact you to talk more about the foundation or make donations?
Absolutely. So we're across Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So our Twitter and Instagram handle is at JE3 Foundation, and on Facebook it's Justin Edinburgh 3 Foundation. And links to make donation are in the bios of all of those platforms. There's a Just Giving link there, which you can follow to make a donation. Once we've got our charity number, it will be a lot easier for people to donate. We're going to get sort of text donate and stuff like that all set up. So it's a lot quicker and more efficient for people to make a donation if they wish. And as I say, I can't say thank you enough to everybody who has got behind us as a family during the most difficult of times, but has, even if it was 10 pence, £1, every donation that's been made and every fundraising effort has gone a long way to helping us achieve what I feel is a really good step in the right direction. I feel that we've got the name out there now. People are aware of JE3 Foundation, and people are wearing the badges now. You can obviously purchase them as well for our website, www.je3foundation.org. You can go on there and make a donation. We'll send out pin badges to you just to help, another way of spreading awareness. In some respects, we're still very, very early on in our journey and what we're set out to achieve, but we feel that we're making great strides to making a difference and doing Dad's legacy the world of good and saving lives and giving back to people.
I totally agree with that. I think you've done an amazing job in what's been a difficult 12 months for you and the family and everybody associated. So yeah, hats off to you. I know those times are difficult, having been through it myself, but amazing, remarkable. Well done.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. I appreciate it.
So we'll put a link to the Just Giving page in when we publish a podcast, so we'll make it easy for people to click on and donate. So final question then, and we're asking everybody that comes on the podcast, maybe let's relate this one to the foundation. So since you started the foundation, what's the best bit of business advice you've been given?
Oh, that's a good one. Best bit of business advice that I've been given since we've started the foundation. I would probably say there was a lady I've been fortunate enough to meet. So Ross Embleton, who obviously is the Leyton Orient manager, his brother Rich Embleton introduced me to a lady called Lorraine O'Brien. She's been a part of some amazing fundraising and charity work throughout her life, and she actually sat in on our first ever JE3 Foundation trustee meeting, and she really opened my eyes to what we could potentially achieve and strive towards. And the one bit of business advice that she's given me, and I've already mentioned it on this, is she said to me, don't be shy to ask people for anything. And whether that's support, advice, guidance, but ultimately it sounds wrong, but for a charity, it's for people's donations. We need people's donations. And I'm a bit, in my life, I've not really liked to ask people for things. I've always tried to find a way of working it out myself, and obviously I tap into my parents and their brains on certain things. But don't be scared to try and ask people for advice. You don't always have the answer. So actually networking with people, delegating certain tasks can often give the best results. That would be the one bit of advice that I've taken so far in the past year.
Amazing. I'm sure it'll stand you well in the future as well. Charlie, it's been honest of you, some interesting insight as well. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on.
No problem, Simon. Thank you for having me on.